Perfect. Okay, we are now moving into the written section of our esthetician state board exam. So this is a specialty theory. This is only for estheticians. If you are any other skill, you don't want to tune into this one, just mute yourself and stay in the background. But for my estheticians, this is the first of 6 actual written sections that we're going to go over. So this section is section 1. It'll be referred to as section 1, licensing and regulation. This section is 15% of your exam or 11 questions. So because your exam is 75 questions long, of that 75 questions, 11 of those questions will be specifically over licensing and regulations. The best part about that is licensing information and rules and regulations are pretty much cut and dry. They are telling you what you can and what you cannot do within your facility, with your license, so on and so forth. So one of our lovely instructors, Callie, has taken an opportunity to note down what page number in our TDLR rulebook each of the bullet points will come from and information that's important for you to know. So first thing that I want to do, now that we've identified what section 1, licensing and regulation, 15%, 11 questions. The next thing I want to do is locate the digital version of the Texas Administrative Code and the Texas Occupational Code. So let's open that. Okay, let's get, of course, it takes me that way. Okay. Let's go back here and let's go manually. So we're going to go to the TDLR website and we're going to find our license type, which is cosmetologist. We're going to go to laws and administrative rules. And as you can see, TDMR continuous license and disciplinary actions under Occupational Code 1602, Texas Administrative Code 83. And then it tells you what's on this page. So our laws are the Texas Occupational Code, Chapter 1603, and Texas Occupational Code 1602, and Texas Occupational Code, Chapter 51. And our rules and regulations are our Texas Admin Code 83, 60, and 55. They have linked version to these chapters as well as PDF and Word versions. So we can see that our written exam for the Section 1 licensing and regulation is coming from Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 83. So we're going to put that in our notes. If you have started your notes section already, I would formulate it just like I have mine. So we're going to put our resources. And we are going to put Texas Administrative Code 83. And we're going to put our Texas Occupational Code, Title 9. And that is going to be Title 9, Chapter 1602 and 1603. So we know we need all 3 of those. Thank you, Rebecca. And then we know that we can get these online. So we're going to go ahead and pull up all the links to where these are. So Texas laws, cosmetology and barbering, Texas Occupational Code, Chapter 1630. We're going to take the PDF. And there's the code. This is what it looks like as Word. And now 1603 is saved to my computer. So let's go back to the PDF version, because what I like about that is it will give me a nice clean link. So I can take that link, that's Occupational Code 1603, and put it behind Occupational Code 1603. And then let's do the same thing for Occupational Code 1602. And we're going to put it behind Occupational Code 1602. And then we also need Chapter 83, which is the cosmetology administrative rules for Occupational Code 1602, Chapter 83. There's the link to it. And then you can go in and request the document if you haven't gotten it, but there's also a way to actually view the code. Let's go. There it is. That's a way to view the code. So you see the code for Text Administrative Code, Chapter 83, and then you can go right to each one of those codes to study. So we're going to copy that. Whoever's not muted, mute yourself, please.
Upstairs? Go get it.
Hold on one second. Okay, looks like everyone's muted. Thank you. Make sure you stay muted, guys. Trying to get a clean recording so that you can come back and reference it. Okay, so we have all of our resources for this section already identified. If you have not already gotten the book version of this, you can request another one from TDLR's website directly. If you don't want a physical copy of it, you can continue to use the PDF versions. Okay, so this exam tells us that this 15% or 11 questions are going to be over health and safety and the responsibility of the licensee. So license and regulation, these are the codes that are important to us from 1602. These are the codes that are important to us for health and safety. You see how health and safety, it's already been sectioned off, health and safety. And then the responsibilities of the license, 83, responsibility of the license. So there's two versions of this code list. Depending on how you like to document it, you have two options. So this is the like kind of cut and dry version. And then we have it here where it's actually going into detail as far as requirements for the license of individuals, the licensing of facilities, the license renewal information, practice by license holder, occupations of operation of a beauty culture school license, powers and duties. They won't need that one. Public participation in complaint procedures, certificate license and permit requirements. You will need that for mobile and mini shops. What's new in cosmetology rules, so on and so forth. So we have it here where if it's in pink, it is just required for eyelash application. If it's in blue, it's just required for blue. And if it's in, if there's any other color, it's for cosmetology, but cosmetology manages all of them. So cosmetology, all of them would apply. So for this section, we know that 11 questions are going to come from these three subsections of the code. So let's just take a minute to actually review some of them and see what kind of information we will be responsible for. So let's start at the top. We are in 1602. So let's go to 1602 and open her up, PDF. So the codes themselves, it's already page numbered here. So the page is here, but if you want to kind of learn how to navigate these codes, 1602 is the actual code itself, like what book it's coming from. And then the sub numbering is in numerical order. So 1602, we know that we need to be in Texas laws, cosmetology and barbering law, Texas occupational code, chapter 1603. And then now we know that in chapter 1603, we want to be confident in the information under 406. So 406, we have 1602. Let's go down to 16406. Infectious and contagious diseases. So a person holding an operator license, instructor license, or specialty certificate may not perform any practice of cosmetology if the person knows the person is suffering from an infectious or contagious disease from which the person is not entitled to protection under the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act of 1902. So we cannot discriminate against a client for having a disability that qualifies under the Federal Disability Act, but we can send a client away if they have a contagious or an infectious disease. So the best way to create your actual study guide is once you've determined your list of rules and codes, I would then make my notes like this. So that's the first one. And then I'm just going to copy that information. Second part is a person holding a beauty shop license, specialty shop license, private beauty culture school license, or license to operate a vocational cosmetology program in a public school may not employ a person to perform any practice of cosmetology if the license holder knows that the person is suffering from an infectious or contagious disease for which the person is not entitled to protection under the American with Disabilities Act. So when it comes to section 1602.406, these are 2 points that I want to remember because I may be asked about them when it comes to licensing and regulations, health and safety, and responsibility of the licensee. So an example of a question that the state board exam might have is, can a licensed esthetician perform services on someone who is currently experiencing a common cold? Or a licensed cosmetologist or esthetician cosmetologist should not perform services on a client currently experiencing a common cold. True or false? True is if that's true, false if that's false. So because we know, according to section 1602.406, we cannot, whether we have a license or not, perform services on a client suffering from an infectious or contagious disease. Does that make sense to everyone? Perfect. I'm going to take that as a yes. So from there, let's do a few more of these codes. And for this section, our first assignment will be to actually go through the codes as they are listed and make our own study guide for it. So we've done infectious and contagious diseases of 1602. Now we're going to go do 1602.34. I'm sorry, 1602.354. And let's get the next one. Continuing education. This will most likely be on your state board exam. I'm almost confident they're going to ask you about continuing education. So section 1602.354, continuing education. The commission will rule, recognize, prepare, or administer continuing education programs for the practice of cosmetology. That's you. Participation in the program is mandatory for all licensing renewals. The commission may only require license holders to complete continuing education of not more than 4 hours in health and safety courses if the license holder is at least 65, has held a cosmetology license for at least 15 years. The commission shall require continuing education programs under this chapter to include information on activities commonly associated with human trafficking, recognition of public potential victims of human trafficking, and the methods of assisting victims of human trafficking, including reporting human trafficking. So when they ask you what information are you to learn during the license renewal continuing education course, the answer is activities commonly associated with human trafficking, recognition of potential victims of human trafficking, and methods for assisting victims of human trafficking, including reporting. Let's do the next one. 1602.351, so not far away. We go into renewal of our license. So we just talked about what we're going to learn in continuing education. Now it's going to go over the renewal requirements and what is accepted, what's expected. So except as provided by subsections B and C, a licensee or certificate issued under this chapter expires on the second anniversary of the date the license was issued. So if TDLR asks you, how often do you have to renew your cosmetology license, your esthetician, your nail, your manicure, your Cosmo, how often do you have to renew it? According to section 1602.31, every 2 years on the second anniversary date that the license or certificate was issued. So if you get your license tomorrow, March 2nd in 2023, on March 2nd, 2024, your license will expire and need to be renewed. You can do your renewal, I believe, up to 90 days before it's actually ready to be renewed. And there are also requirements for how long you can not renew your license before you have to start over. So we've got 1602.351, and then we'll do the same for 1602.257. So let's go to 2.257. And then there is a 0.257 that is 2.52572 and 2571. So these are the eligibility for a specialty license in eyelash extension, an eyelash extension specialty license program, which you don't need the program, so we won't, so that's why a 0.2 is not there. You just need the 0.271. So let's update that, and then let's take that information. And then we're also going to take 0.257, which is the eligibility for an esthetician specialty license. So this one is, and then we will do another one of, did I put this in the wrong place? I sure did. That's supposed to go down here. There we go. And then we're going to do the same thing for section 1602.257, which is the eligibility for eyelash specialty license. I'm sorry, esthetician specialty license. So they are going to ask you questions on your exam, like how old must you be to be eligible for an esthetician specialty license? 17. How long is the training program for an esthetician specialty license? 750 hours. Have obtained a high school diploma or equivalent, or have passed a valid examination administered by a certified testing agency that measures the person's ability to benefit from training. Each one of these subsections is giving you information regarding the health and safety, the overall licensing and regulation, or the responsibility of each individual licensee. So this section is 2 subsections on your exam. So it's licensing and regulation is section 1, but it's covering questions that will come from health and safety and questions that will come from the responsibility of the license within these 3 administrative codes: Administrative Code 1602, Administrative Occupational Code 1603, and Texas Administrative Code Chapter 83. So what I want to do for the rest of this theory, and I'm only going to do, let's do 10 minutes. So I don't think we should take very much time, is for each individual person that's on the Zoom, I want you to locate and pull up the digital version or pull out your book. Pick an administrative code from section 83 or section 1603. So I'm going to finish 1602, but I want everyone else to pull the administrative codes from 1603 and section 83 and pull all the administrative codes that are listed, and then we will you can copy them into the chat and we'll put them all listed in order under our notes so that we have a study guide and we know what to study. So let's do that. We have 12 minutes. Let's see if we can get them all done in this 12 minutes. I'm going to mute my screen, but you'll see me just moving along you'll see my device moving. So any one of these subsections that you'd like to pull from, just start with 83 or 1603, because I'm doing 1602. Perfect. Thank you, Kelby. And that is all from 1602. And then let's go back to the top. So we've got all of these. We've got the display of the license. And then we will do the same thing for health and safety. So health and safety is going to come from section 83. Perfect. Oh, perfect. 803, section 105. Someone got health and safety, temporary hair removal services. So that's for our waxing. Thank you, Grace. Let's go ahead and put that one down. Oh, no, Jesus. I cannot copy those like that. Thank you for sending them. You can keep sending them. I'm going to copy them from the book because it'll be easier for me. But let's go. I'll go ahead and get them all copied over and moved over, and then we'll have the resources available for everyone so that we can, go through them. But essentially what I would do is write these out when it comes to a chapter like this, because you don't know the type of questions that they're going to ask. Like, you don't know what information they're going to ask. The best way to study for a chapter like this is to jot down all the laws and regulations that are of interest to us that are going to come through for the exam. So we got 83, and then we need 83-100. So we'll go to 83-100. So what I will do is copy all this down, and then I will record myself reading them out loud, like in one little recording. It might take me 15-20 minutes. And then every time I want to study for this section, I would just play the recording until I was so comfortable with the information that I knew that I could answer the questions from that section of the exam. So I will give an example of that. Let me just copy the next one. 100. So we need all of these. So from 100 to 105. So perfect. So this is 83.100. And then under that, we have 83.101. So I'm going to do an example while we're getting the rest of them. So I would start at the top of my list. I will record myself. You can use Zoom so that it records to the cloud and you just got a link. You record on your phone, whatever is going to be easiest for you to replay. I do personally recommend recording it on Zoom, record to the cloud and download it, and it'll give you a nice link. Thank you, Cassandra. Thank you. And then I would go like this. Section 1602.406, infections and contagious diseases. A person holding a license, an operator license, instructor license, or specialty certificate may not perform any practice of cosmetology if the person knows or is suffering from an infectious or contagious disease for which the person is not entitled to protection under the Federal Americans with Disabilities Acts of 1990. B, a person holding a beauty shop license, specialty shop license, private beauty culture school license, or license to operate a vocational cosmetology program in a public school may not employ a person to perform any practice of cosmetology. If the license holder knows that the person is suffering from an infectious or contagious disease from which the person is not entitled to protection under the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. Section 1602.354, continuing education. A, the commission will by rule recognize, prepare, or administer continuing education programs for the practice of cosmetology. Participation in the program is mandatory for all license renewals. The commission may only require a license holder to complete continuing education of not more than 4 hours in health and safety courses in the license if the license holder is at least 65 years of age and has held a cosmetology license for 15 years. The commission shall require continuing education programs under the chapter to include information on activities commonly associated with human trafficking, recognizing the potential victims of human trafficking, and methods for assisting victims of human trafficking, including how to report human trafficking, so on and so forth. So every one of these and any that you think you might want to add, I would record myself reading them, and then I would just play that back every day, once or twice a day, until I'm confident in that section, and then I will move on to the next section. Some chapters are going to be easier to do. Some sections are going to be easier to study via flashcard because it's more vocabulary based. Some are going to be easier to study via like audio recordings, like I just did an example for in this case. Some are going to be easier, you know, doing Quizlets. It's 100% up to you. But what I personally recommend is for every one of them is to have something ready to go so that you have a method for each one of these subsections. Right now, we're just gathering the data. After we gather the data, if you record yourself reading it once, it's so much easier to study and reference the material. And then you don't have to worry about, you know, oh, every time I want to study for this exam, I've got to pull up this book and that book and this book. You don't, you could just pull up your, you know, your video for that section, or you can pull up the flashcards for that section and go on about your business. So then I need one more for section 83, which is 83.105. And then that covers all the 83.100 through 105. And then let's go back. And then we need 83, we need 70 to 73, 4, and then we need 78. So actually we don't need 83.7 because that's the responsibility of school. We don't need 83.72. That's the responsibility of school. You need responsibility of student and you need responsibility of mobile shops. So let's get those, which I believe we have them here. Yep. Yes, 104. Yes, 83. Oh, this is a good one, Cassandra. Chapter 83, Barbers and Cosmetology's Rule 8311. So do you see how 83111, I apologize, not 8311. See how that's not on my main list? So I'm going to add that to my main list. And then now that it's on my main list, I can just move it down and I'm good to go. So all I'm doing is gathering the information, putting it in a studyable document, reading through. To me, I like to read through the document, but for you, it may be a matter of creating flashcards, whatever you see fit for yourself. But essentially anything that's within this health and safety, we know that it's on our state board because what does this say? 11 questions are coming from licensing and regulations, which are these two resources, which are health and safety, which boom, what does that say? Health and safety, every one of those. So we need to know every one of these rules. And where's the next one? Responsibility of the licensee. So we don't need responsibility of school or of establishment because you don't have, well, you could use establishment. You can use responsibility of individual practitioners, responsibility of a mobile establishment, technical, no, you don't need technical requirements, license requirements, you want fees. Any of these rules and administrative codes and any of these laws and regulations from 1602 and 1603 are what it is that you're actually trying to study. And then we can do the same thing like we did for this one, 1603, and just kind of look at the sections and see if any of them fall into health and safety or responsibility of their licensee. Thank you, everyone who has submitted some in the chat. Perfect. Is there any questions for the written licensing and regulation section of your exam that is worth 15% or 11 questions? Perfect. And I just want to, let me stop the recording and then I'm going to make a clarification. So let me stop there.